Mahatma Gandhi once said, "Our ability to reach unity in diversity will be the beauty and the test of our civilization." It is unfortunate, however, that we are yet to pass this test. So this brings up the question of why haven't we passed this test? And how can we pass this test? Hello everybody, I am Laya Balakumar, a human being with something to say today for the next few minutes that I hope makes history. Since the exploration of different societies, there has also been the formation of the idea of us and them. As people start making such distinctions and we do not address them in a constructive manner, we come across the germination of the belief or assumption that one is better than the other. This is the root cause for racial stigma, which I believe is the answer to the why part of our question. That leaves us with the second part of our question. How to pass this test? The answer is simple. Break the barrier of racial stigma. This, however, brings up another question, which is the topic of my speech today. How to break the barrier of racial stigma. Now, before we get into the details of breaking this barrier of racial stigma, let me first define this barrier and then explain why I believe it is the root cause for the seemingly perpetual issue of disunity among us. Race, by definition, is the grouping of humans based on shared physical or social qualities into categories that are generally viewed as distinct within a society, and stigma involves the negative attitudes or discrimination against someone based on a distinguishing characteristic. Racial stigma is the stigma that is based on race. Racial stigma in real life can be seen displayed as the deceptively innocuous stereotype that Asians are good at math that generalizes and more so pressurizes all Asians to be so, or it can also be seen more dangerously displayed as the negative stereotyping and stigmatization that leads to racial discrimination. An example of negative stereotyping and stigmatization of a group of people that leads to their racial discrimination is that experienced by the urban Romas living in Hungary. In the research paper titled "Urban Romas in a Disadvantaged Neighborhood of Szeged," a participatory action research was conducted on the Romas living in a specific neighborhood in Szeged in Hungary. It was revealed through this research that many of the Romas face disadvantages due to the existence of a deeply rooted stigmatization in their society. The research further revealed that there was evident spatial segregation, with the Roma communities being segregated within two main areas within the city. The interviews of various Roma individuals from these areas revealed that they were deprived of socio-economic, educational, and racial equality that further pushed them into re-establishing the negative stigma that was built around them, thus creating a vicious cycle which is seen in most discrimination cases. Another example of racial discrimination caused due to negative stereotyping and stigmatization is the problem of hate crimes against Asian Americans that was recently aggravated during the COVID-19 pandemic. According to an article in the American Journal of Justice, over 2,100 anti-Asian American hate crimes were reported across the country over a time span of 3 months. Another example of racial discrimination is that experienced by the Afro-Americans in America. According to the article, Discrimination in the United States, Experiences of Black Americans, it was revealed that 92% of Afro-Americans believe that discrimination against them exists in the United States. It is clearly evident that no matter what form racial stigma takes, be it deceptively harmless stereotypes or violently dangerous hate crimes, discrimination, and segregation, it is a serious issue that is a root cause for disunity and inequality. This type of unfair treatment and negative bias towards a group of people solely due to their race is not only damaging to that community, but also the society as a whole. Therefore, it is imperative that we discuss a solution to this problem. So, let's discuss. There are different methods following which we can do our part in breaking the barrier of racial stigma. The first method is to start the conversation. Every big movement begins with a conversation and the initiative of a person to start that. The Montgomery bus boycott, a significant civil rights protest during which Afro-Americans refused to ride the city buses in Montgomery, Alabama to protest segregated seating, also started as a conversation. It started as a conversation within the Women's Political Council a year before the actual boycott. As Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "Our life begins to end the day we become silent about the things that matter." This brings us to the second method. Stand up for what you believe in. Rosa Parks not giving up her seat in support of her belief that she was an equal part of society inspired so many that it led to the conversation becoming action. The third action which you can take to stand up for what you believe in is to speak up for what you believe in. All the great civil rights leaders, from Martin Luther King to Mahatma Gandhi, spoke up for what they believe in, and in doing so, inspired so many others to do the same. When so many of us speak up, the world will have no choice but to listen, as shown by these prominent figures. The fourth method, which may be the fundamental for all the other methods, is to educate yourself and then educate those around you about the different cultures. Inclusion and acceptance begins from understanding and knowledge. As we begin to form a society of socially aware and knowledgeable people, the society will come to see the beauty in our differences and the strength in the unity that can be achieved from accepting these differences. Thousands of people have tried to break the barrier of racial stigma by following these methods. Only some may have gone down in history for future generations to hear, but each and every one of them has changed the society around them for future generations to see and live in. We are all links of one chain. Once we begin to realize that and raise awareness, the chain is bound to get longer and stronger. We can finally pass this test and achieve the beauty only when we break the barrier of racial stigma. One thing which I'd like everyone watching to think about, which I strongly believe in, is that the actions you take towards change will define your history and form someone's future. Thank you for watching my TED Talk, and hope that my words today will make the future like your actions and thoughts will.